let's get to number 4 here. This was a joke at my expense for a while. Don't trade the depth in a COVID season. Now, I made this point because I knew the guys were going to go in and out, and that it did indeed happen. I think what happened, though, is that the Heat's depth was not as good as we thought it was. So I'll get to this. They're blowing up tonight, so this is probably a bad night to do this pod. Okay, Okpala looks great, Precious looks good.
It's 93-66 as we're doing this.
I mean, maybe they all should have played. Maybe they should have been the guys playing against Milwaukee the other night.
When are they so good at scoring?
Max Strus had a vicious dunk that Bam was excited about and Iguodala was excited about. But I'll just leave it at this, and I'll start with you, Alex, this time. Did the Heat's development reputation and identification of talent reputation take a bit of a hit this year? I mean, Okpala is not what they hoped, I think, at this stage. We can talk about no summer league and all the rest of that. We have Precious obviously hit a wall. The two-way guys, Strus gave him something. Vincent's kind of one-dimensional. And the dimension he has is not the one we thought he had because he can't really shoot. He defends. Did they take a hit this year from developmental perspective?
I'm not there. I don't think because some of those guys didn't hit and ended up kind of being third string guys. Like, these guys were later picks in the draft. I feel like I would feel that way maybe if it was a higher pick, but we saw them pick Tyler Hero at 14 and turn him into a really good, a very good rotation player to have in his rookie season. And this year you talk about Precious, like I think Precious looked pretty damn good those first couple of months, relative to being a rookie backup 5, right? And I think he's ever since he got benched for Dedmon, and by the way, I think that connects to this whole conversation about finding talent because Dedmon was clearly somebody they needed. The Ariza thing, to me, they nailed that. You already know I'm a big fan of Ariza's game. And sorry, my laptop is over here going crazy. But seriously, like, Strus and Vincent are not even guys I think about when it comes to this. They're fine. They're cool two-way guys to have. But Precious and KZ are the guys who just need some more time and reps, whether it's summer league, whether it's, games like this that don't matter. They're not there yet. But to me, like, they've got – with everything that they've done with the veterans and the signs that some of these younger guys have shown, I think they're all right. Like, I think KZ is the one that bothers me a little bit just because you think he'd be a little bit further along. He just hasn't shown anything on offense, really, besides that one spin move that he had like a month ago. And, he plays solid defense, so I'll give him that. Like, he's gotten better on defense. He doesn't look as lost. He's out there giving a whole lot of effort. He's not just standing around. But I'm not really there yet. I don't think I'm there that the Heat's development took a hit this season.
Thank you, Alex, because there's a couple things here. So part of the whole process, as I understand it, and many people probably say I don't understand it, is that you were acquiring picks because the more opportunities you had at players, you were going to inevitably hit on one or two of those players and you would build a great team, right? Well, there's a little bit of that philosophy here. Like, you're going to bring in a lot of and cycle through a lot of these guys, these undrafted guys, these two-way guys, these end of the bench, second round players. And some of them you're going to hit on and some of them you aren't. It's not something that you're going to do every single season. It's never been that way with the Heat. There's been stretches where they've gone on droughts. I think the LeBron era excluded because they completely shifted away from any developmental thoughts. After that era, they've always had something in the pipeline, and it may be a little bleak now, but only because the guys that they've just groomed, the Duncan, the Nuns, the Heroes, the Bams, are all like now, starter level players. So I just feel like we're not there yet.
Well, you're right about the big three era. I mean, Norris Cole, who was a late first round pick, was pretty much the only young player they really integrated with that group in any way. And
in retrospect, it was a mistake.
It was, but it was a mistake that was forced by what they felt was a positional need to a certain degree. But again, one of the reasons they drafted Norris was he had played as a leader where he was like the go-to guy down the stretch for his college team. and he'd played multiple years there in that
Yeah,
role.
no, sorry, Ethan. I meant the lack of focus on development.
Oh, no, I know. Well,
was a mistake.
they argue with me about that, and they'll mention Norris as that guy, right, that was there, and they'll also talk about how, well, Rio was drafted in 08, so he was, but I mean, by then, I mean, he was already he was, I mean, you know, Rio would tell you he was already a superstar by 2010. So I don't know that Rio may be the best example, but no, they had the Terrell Harrises and the Mikel Gladnesses, and nobody really panned out. And they didn't put any stock into it. They'd rather go get a Rashard Lewis, which again, I understood at the time. I mean, you have LeBron's window, but now we're talking about kind of the same thing, right? You have Jimmy's window, and Jimmy's not LeBron, but Jimmy's actually older than LeBron was at that stage. And it does become a question of, okay, who can he trust? I think all of these questions that we're talking about now, and the Heat may come to regret this in 2-3 years if Jimmy does decline as people expected him to do because of all those, you know, Tibbs years, right? Even though, again, as I said, Jimmy's minutes are not as great over the course of his career as people think they are. But if he does start to decline, then people will say, well, the Heat went too all in on Jimmy Butler and they were put in a bad position. But the reality is Jimmy has outplayed what you expected, and so you have to do it. And so I don't know that there's going to be a lot of room for the Max Struses of the world as we go forward, because I think that there's going to be more of an emphasis on trying to get vets he can trust. And I do think you mentioned Ariza and Dedmon, that they kind of they're kind of the proof of concept there, right? Like Ariza and Dedmon earned Jimmy's trust, each of them within the first week.
Yeah.
And that's not something that Precious did. It's not something, to be honest, that Tyler has at times this year. It's not. And I just think you're going to get to a certain point with Jimmy where he wants to win a championship. He wants to win it in Miami, and he wants to win it with his guys and the guys that he can, you know, go to battle with every night.
But you're going to need a couple low salary players to outperform their cap, the percentage of cap that they're taking up. So like a Max Strus, for instance, they may not go and find a bunch more Max Struses, but he could end up being a player that you can find a role for, similar to how they did with Duncan. Obviously Duncan's on another trajectory, but point taken for sure.
All right. We're going to get to number 5 here.
That's what Max Strus is doing.
So kind of sums all this up in a second. Before